One morning, we accompanied Laura, a biologist from Memorial University, and her assistant Dan. One of their research projects examines insects' pollination patterns by using different colors of bowls to attract and capture specimens along a 60-meter stretch. Our bear monitor, Joby, carried his great-grandfather's Lee Enfield 303 that dated back from 1944, when the British Army issued them to Labrador Inuit. Joby did not have to deal with this fellow across the valley. The area has lots of interesting flora, including roseroot, berries, Labrador tea, and wildflowers. Then Laura took us to an area where she and Dan are studying climate effect on plant growth. The experimental area was in an open-top chamber designed to increase the temperature a couple of degrees. Dan measured soil temperature and humidity. They also have an unprotected control area nearby where similar measurements are taken. Soil nutrients are measured from water flow through a probe. Rate of organic material degradation is measured using a wooden popsicle stick, not too sophisticated but cost-effective. Year-round soil temperature is recorded by buried sensors that are retrieved annually and sent to the Memorial Lab for analysis. Plant growth is measured at a very minute level of detail along the stem. Quite an array of instruments. These two caribou did not fare as well as the fellow who roamed by our campsite that morning. Lots more pitsic hanging to dry when we got back to camp. For our last full day in camp, we boarded the Inuitatik for a 3-hour journey from Saglek Bay south to the Moravian settlement at Hebron that was resettled in 1959. Ruth and Kay had lots to discuss. The iconic old church building stood out from some distance as we entered the mouth of Hebron Fjord. While we anchored, the old Hudson Bay Post and seal rendering building ruins, along with an old house, were visible. Our local guide, Jenny, was stationed there with her family for the summer to monitor activity on the site, prevent vandalism, guide visitors, and provide polar bear monitoring. Three plaques tell the story. First is the list of the 300 people who were resettled arbitrarily without consultation. Second is the apology from the Newfoundland Labrador government. And third is the acceptance by the Labrador Inuit. They were not welcome in the communities and had no hunting rights. Isolation in ghettos and hunger resulted. Social issues like substance abuse, domestic violence, and high rates of suicide still affect several of these families across 2 generations. The $10 million settlement to the families could not undo these consequences. John Jerusi, who was 10 at the time of resettlement and is now an Inuit elder, shared first-hand accounts of life in Hebron and after the resettlement. He relayed one story about a Moravian missionary who actually murdered an Inuit and was never prosecuted. John guided us through the Moravian cemetery with its German names on the headstones dating back to the 1800s. Then we visited an old Inuit grave where some human remains were still visible under the rock pile. Finally, we went to the newer Inuit cemetery where his father Martin was buried in 1954 and grandmother in 1925. Beneath the tombstone data on another marker, there was an Inuktitut hymn and a prayer. John said they used to hitch dogs to a wagon or sled to go down this road to get drinking water from the stream outlet below. We visited some of the old buildings, such as the Hudson Bay Powder House, John's family house, the Hudson Bay Post, and the seal rendering plant. And the camp cups were there too. As we left, Jenny and her family bid us adieu. On the way back to camp, we passed many hills with black vertical dikes created by magma oozing through the cracks in the Earth's crust. While waiting to depart base camp on our final morning, Donna was operating a hair braiding salon. Ruth posed with Laura, Dan, and Chantal, the park's environmental scientist. Before departing the airstrip at Saglec Bay, we visited the nearby North Warning System radar site and had a great tour courtesy of Donnie, the maintenance supervisor on site. The site is operated remotely and is only manned when maintenance is being done 4 months of the year. Great views from up there. Our last view of Saglec Fjord was from the plane window as we ended our fantastic adventure in Torngat Mountains National Park.